What's going on, Guardians? It's Tizzle here. So right off the bat, I am recording this no script or anything from my laptop. So if my voice sounds weird, that's why. I don't have editing software on my laptop and I'm at my girlfriend's house for the next few days. But I did really want to make a video just going over the new artifact for next season because there's some absolutely insane mods that I want to talk about that will be really good in the day one dungeon, and especially if you're going for solo flawless. And then there was also some like armor mod changes and exotic changes and things like that. I won't be covering those. This is strictly the artifact. So let's jump right into it. Anti-barrier sidearm. We've had this in the past, and Forerunner actually is really, really awesome with the sidearm. And Mechaneer's trick sleeves are getting a little bit of a buff next season, so that could be a nice pairing. But Cryosthesia as well could be a fun sidearm to use, and Final Warning, because Stasis is getting a buff next season as well. So those are just some decent options. Unstoppable hand cannon, things like Sunshot and Zali's Bane. You want a good solar hand cannon, which I'll get into in a minute here. Really, you just want good solar weapons in general next season, which we'll get into shortly. Unstoppable bow, that one's new. We've never had that. So something like this that came out in the Nightfalls last season is really good. Tiku's, whatever. Le Monarch is already Overload, and Wishender is already anti-barrier, so they won't be able to stun Unstoppables. At least they shouldn't. Le Monarch could double dip last season, but they put an end to that pretty quick. Overload auto rifles, same thing. Something like the Amit is really nice. Anyone can get it. It's craftable. It's solar, so that's a good option. And then Overload pulse rifles. I've always had a thing for Bad Juju. It was my first exotic in D1. So I just really like that gun, so maybe level that up. Outbreak Perfected is always fun when pulse rifles are on the menu, and really just whatever pulse rifle you want. We're not going to cover these too much. They just improve the benefits of these origin traits, so not a big deal, and they're pretty common to all artifacts, as is this one, which is just a combined Siphon mod. But now, if we go to the second column, we've got From Whence You Came, increases ability damage to taken and scorned combatants. Quite a while ago, I was talking with my clanmates, and I was pointing out how there's never been a Scorn dungeon. So I fully expect Scorn to be in next Friday's dungeon, so this could be really good to have unlocked for, just dealing some extra damage to taken and scorn. Blast Radius, this allows you to get armor charge from rocket launcher and grenade final blows. One thing I do want to point out is with all these increased damage and whatever, we don't know the percentages, but I will be testing that once the season launches. But again, this still will be good as long as Taken and Scorn are in whatever activity you're running. So Kindling Trigger, this is the first one I'm really excited about. Radiant causes solar weapons to apply Scorch to unscorched combatants. So Radiant is a solar verb. It gives a 25% damage bonus. A lot of people seem to think it's 15% for some reason, but it is 25%, which is an insane damage bonus. And now it allows you to apply Scorch to any combatants that don't have Scorch already applied. So that's really strong. I actually did make a Dawn Chorus build, and I did a whole breakdown on Scorch on my YouTube channel like a month ago. So check those out if you want more info. But basically, Skyburners is something that can apply Scorch, and now all your solar weapons will be able to apply Scorch so long as you're Radiant. So that is a pretty strong mod, especially if you're building into Scorch, like I said, with Dawn Chorus or something. But once they are Scorched, I don't think you'll be able to continuously apply Scorch because it only applies it to unscorched combatants. So you can't apply it all the way up to an ignition, but still pretty good for a column 2 perk. Flint Striker, this is another super strong one. Rapid solar weapon precision hits and rapid solar weapon final blows grant Radiant. So I just said how strong Radiant is, 25% weapon damage bonus, and now you can get that on any subclass as long as you're running solar weapons. So that's extremely strong, and you don't even have to get kills, just rapid precision hits. So if you look at like the Ghost of the Deep dungeon, you could run Cataclysmic or Sleeper Simulant on that final boss, and as long as you're landing your crits, you can be getting Radiant. So just 25% damage bonus, and that's on any subclass. So that frees up like a lot of build crafting. You could run Stasis Warlock, whatever you want to run, right? And Vex Mythoclast gets a buff next season. It's an auto fusion rifle, basically, so you could land rapid precision hits pretty easily with that. So Flint Striker is going to be extremely strong, and it's only in column 3. So you definitely want to have that unlocked before the dungeon. Torch, while radiant, deal increased weapon damage to combatants affected by strand and stasis debuffs. So I just talked about how this can give you radiant on any subclass, presumably. Well, Torch, say you were running Bleak Watcher Warlock. That Bleak Watcher is going to apply slow and freeze over time, and then you'll have another one to throw out if you're running the Osmiomancy Gloves. So it'll be affected by a stasis debuff. So now you've got a debuff, and you can have radiant. So again, those just work hand in hand. So you can get a free debuff and a free buff just for running these 2 perks, which is really, really good. So yeah, that's just like one thing you could do. You could also do Strand Titan. I believe the melee causes Sever, so then it's severed and you'll deal increased weapon damage, which again, Radiant is already giving 25% more weapon damage. So again, we don't know the percentages, but that sounds very strong. Heart of the Flame, casting your solar super grants nearby allies Radiant and increases the damage of your super for each nearby ally. So where this is going to be really strong is in raids. You could have 6 Star Eater Scales Hunters with Blade Barrage. You cast 1, and then that's going to make all your allies Radiant. And it increases the damage of your super for each nearby ally. So that will stack to like times 5, because say it was Crota, and you're all on top of each other. The first guy casts, and then... increases the damage of your super, for each nearby ally. So basically when you cast, you'll get a bunch more damage, as will all the other guys casting their super. So yeah, that could deal some crazy damage depending on how much it scales per ally. It won't be strong in solo activities, obviously, so not if you're soloing the dungeon, and it won't be as strong in the 3-man dungeon because there's less allies around, but still not a bad perk to run. Wished into Being, while your super is nearly fully charged, ability Final Blows spawn Orbs of Power. Wearing Season of the Wish armor decreases the super amount threshold, so maybe it'll go from like 4/5 to 3/4 or half, whatever it is. Not a big deal. I mean, supers are kind of strong, and it's nice to spawn orbs, but this one isn't anything too crazy. Or maybe it is super strong. Maybe, who knows? But it's ability Final Blows. So something like Sunbracers, you can get a ton of solar grenade Final Blows, but you're probably going to get more super energy just from running Ashes to Assets on your helmet than you are from spawning the Orbs of Power. Not to mention, if you're running that build, you're probably going to be running Firepower on your gloves, which will already make orbs from your grenade kills. But something interesting nonetheless. We have Unraveling Orbs. Picking up an Orb of Power grants Strand Weapons Unraveling rounds, and just a reminder that Unraveling rounds on Strand Weapons gives them anti-barrier, something akin to volatile rounds on Void. So just a way to make any Strand weapon anti-barrier, so long as it doesn't already have an anti-champion mod on it, because that kind of overrides it. Pillar of Ice, killing an encased combatant spawns stasis crystals. So this is if you're building into a stasis build. This could be really good on the Cadmus Ridge Cap or Lance Cap Titan, because it's all about basically freezing and throwing your little lances and whatever else. So yeah, I think that could be a fun build next season. And then it just spawns more stasis crystals, and you can build into stasis crystals and all that. This one is very strong for the day 1 dungeon, I believe. Causing damage with a solar ability weakens champions and bosses for a short duration. So we don't know how much it weakens, and we don't know the duration, but because they say weaken, that typically is a 15% debuff. So again, we want to be building in to solar stuff, so you can get Radiant, which again is a 25% damage buff, and then you could debuff the boss in the dungeon, say, with your solar abilities. So something like Starfire Protocol could be really good. You could send out a Celestial Fire melee, and say you're running Ember of Torches, that gives you your Radiant. Then you keep landing precision hits with your solar weapon right here, so that will keep the Radiant going, I presume. Maybe it has to fully go away before it'll reproc, we don't know that. But basically you can use Flint Striker to keep up your Radiant. And then when the weaken wears off, you can throw a fusion grenade from Starfire Protocol, which gives you 2. And then when the weaken wears off again, you can throw another fusion grenade. And by that point, the damage phase is likely close to over. So yeah, you could kind of do that off the rip. Once, say it was like the Ghost of the Deep dungeon, then some thralls start coming up to you, and I think that final boss is like a 45-second damage phase. Then you could pop your well, keep doing damage, and then throw out another grenade to weaken the boss again. So yeah, anyways, anytime you can weaken just from the artifact mod, that's super strong, especially on Solar, which already has easy access to Radiant, which is 25%. So you're doing presumably a 15% weaken. That's just going to be really, really strong for day one. And going forward, like all the GMs, everything. Because we can have our abilities up so much, so you can weaken basically every champion if you're running a Solar build. Overload rocket launchers, this one's quite interesting. Obviously stuff like Apex Predator can roll Reconstruction. I don't know how much I love Overload on a rocket launcher, because Overload tends to need like sustained damage, but it's still kind of nice. But if it's on something like a Captain, they also like move around a lot, so it's not going to be great at getting that initial stun. But if you're running like an Overload auto rifle, that can get you the initial stun, and then your rocket follow-ups can hopefully wear it down and keep it from regenning its health. But yeah, that one's kind of interesting. Dragon's Bite, breaking a combatant's shield with a strand or stasis weapon has a chance to suspend or freeze that combatant, and then wearing the Season of the Wish armor increases that chance. So it's just a chance, and breaking a combatant's shield, it might work on anti-barriers, but yeah, so match game's not in the game anymore, so it's easier to break with like a strand or stasis weapon, but I don't know how useful that's going to be. It could be decent, like you can freeze the combatant and then Pillar of Ice, I don't know, make another stasis crystal. Who knows how strong that one will be. Not very good. I'm mostly excited about all these solar ones. Argent Ordnance used to be in the game. It's max stacks. It was in the old mod system. Its max stacks were able to go up to 35% damage increase for your rockets. So I imagine that's where this one will top out. And it consumes 1 stack of armor charge. So it grants increased damage and reload speed until you reload or stow your rocket launcher. So it does require having a stack of armor charge. But yeah, it's probably going to make your rockets deal even more damage. So again, in the dungeon, in a 3-man fire team, one guy can run Gallahorn, you guys can run your bait and switch Apex Predators, and then you make a well, which gives 3 orbs, and then your first 3 rockets are doing even more damage, presumably, than the 25% that Well of Radiance gives. I don't think it would stack with things like Radiant, but we never know. If it does, that makes this extremely strong. If it doesn't stack, then it's just going to go from probably 25% to 35%. So this one has big potential to be an absolute boss melter, because rockets are already insane with Gallahorn. But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see how that stacks. Solo Operative was around right before Lightfall. While you are the only member of your fire team, you deal increased damage to all combatants. So back then, that was 15% extra damage, and that was to your abilities, that was to your weapons, everything. So this, if you want to solo that dungeon, yeah, if you're a grinder, get out there, start stacking bounties for next season. If you're fine to wait till the strats are sort of sorted out, like happened with Ghosts of the Deep, where Arbalest could like break the boss's shield. So if you want to wait till the popular strats come out, and it gives you a little more time to unlock Solo Operative, I definitely recommend don't even try the Solo Flawless until you have this, because 15% extra damage, that's going to knock off at least 1 boss damage phase, and there's probably at least 2 bosses in the dungeon, so it's going to save you a lot of time. So presumably that's going to be 15% again, and I soloed every GM the season that was out. I might do that again next season just because it's such a long season, so there's not going to be much else to do. So solo operative is going to be really, really fun, especially because we have these things where like your solar abilities can debuff targets, and then you can get radiant all the time. So you're walking around with 15% extra damage here, 15% weaken from your solar abilities on champions, and 25% damage if you're running solar weapons. So you're just going to be pumping champions next season, even in solo GMs. Like, these mods are absolutely crazy for solo players. Raise of Precision. While radiant, solar precision final blows cause combatants to ignite. That is absolutely crazy. Again, I made that Dawn Chorus build on my YouTube channel, and it's just going to go even more hard next season because you can just make ignition so easily. And yeah, I mentioned Forerunner. It's got really good precision damage, and it's anti-barrier next season. So as long as you're radiant, you can just get a quick little precision kill with Forerunner, and boom, that's going to cause combatants to ignite. And ignitions are like the best way, bar none, for mass ad clear. So this and this are probably going to be my two go-tos next season, especially in solo content. If I'm with clanmates or fire team members, whatever, maybe Argent Ordnance if we're running rockets. And then maybe I want to mix it up and run some stasis. Then you could run Hail the Storm. Shattering encased targets and stasis crystals deals increased damage. Shattering a stasis crystal releases shards of ice that damage and slow targets. So again, on my YouTube channel recently, I used the stasis bow, the exotic one. I can't think of what it's called. Right here, Verglass Curve. So that with the Hail Barrage can make a ton of stasis crystals, and they're going to be doing increased damage next season. So building into stasis crystals could be really, really good. I will be making some stasis builds next season. I'm actually super excited to. I've ran stasis here and there, and it's fun, but it's never been very strong. Like, if you want to speed run a GM, you're not running stasis. But if you want to have fun, like, I've soloed GMs with stasis, and it is fun. And this is going to make it fun and strong. So I'm quite excited for this one. And then lastly, we have Horde Shuttle. Damaging unraveled targets with a weapon occasionally spawns a Threadling. So good for like a Swarmer's Threadling build, but nothing too strong. So basically, I'm not going to be taking this off if I'm running solar, not going to be taking this off if I'm running stasis. If I'm running solo, this, and if I'm in a fire team or running rockets, probably this. So there's some good variety. A lot of times you want to run like a few last column perks, but you can only ever run 2. But in this case, none of them really work against each other. Like, if you're running stasis, you're not going to be needing to run this. Though you could, because you could get Radiant from Flint Striker, and then while Radiant, Solar Precision Final Blows. Oh, I'm sorry, it's Solar Precision Final Blows. So I messed that up. So you couldn't use Forerunner, but you could use anything else, really, anything solar. But still a very, very strong mod, because it's easier than ever next season to get Radiant, and Solar Precision Final Blows will cause ignitions. So even something like Fixed Odds, it's fairly accurate, and yeah, you can just mow down enemies with that. But anyways, that is the artifact next season. It looks pretty cool, and I'm very excited. It's going to be a long season, but yeah, at least we have some really fun artifact mods to work with, and I'm excited that Stasis is finally, in the artifact, because it hasn't been for a really long time. And this one, depending on the increased damage that the stasis crystals do, this could be really, really strong. So anyways, that's it for the video. Thanks for watching. Take care.